Okay, closed session has been adjourned. I now am calling this meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me in the flag salute?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And no action was taken in closed session. Okay, Dr. Shower, would you like to cover teleconference board meeting protocol?
Yes. Board of Trustees, thank you so much for taking part with your leadership in the special board meeting tonight concerning two very important action item areas. I do want to clarify that the session is being recorded and that the public that is joining us, their devices are muted. We do take public comment 24 hours in advance by email. We have no emails this evening. We also, during the meeting tonight, will accept public comment by telephone or teleconference. And what the public will be asked to do is, as the meeting progresses related to the two items, we're going to ask that you please use the raised hand icon to make public comment. When it is your turn for public comment, the meeting facilitator, I think Mrs. April Heron, will let them know that it is their turn to speak. Their public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And again, that depends on the total number of public comment that we have, because there's some adjustments that could be made depending on how many we actually have this evening. In terms of the board vote for a teleconference meeting, we're going to ask board members that once the motion is made, that will follow with a roll call vote. So the public that cannot see you can hear what you individually have decided to do one by one. And if we happen to lose connectivity, or it can happen sometimes at our level or other levels, then we'll take a break till we get things reestablished. So that is our protocol for this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Now on to new business. First item on the agenda is 202.175, and that is board consideration of approval of memorandum of understanding, an MOU, between Galt Elementary Faculty Association, GEFA, and the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District regarding the first addendum to the November 16, 2020 agreement to reopen schools through in-person, on-campus blended instruction.
All right. Very, very important action item tonight. At our last regular board meeting, we had provided information to you about conditions that were improving concerning the pandemic, the progress that we've made with our safety plan, and just the recommendation that we look at reopening not only before spring break, but we look at opening the week of March 15th. And you directed me to work on making that happen, and also to ensure that we were working with our labor unions to address needs with our employees to make that happen. I want you to know that last week we worked with CSEA, and we worked with CSEA more than once around this area to communicate and make sure that we're ready to go. And then last Friday, because this is what the action item is about, last Friday, GFA negotiations team met with management and worked together till 5:30 on a Friday evening to reach a tentative agreement that was ratified last night, that we put before you to consider this evening. Our teachers, our certificated staff, all of our staff have worked so hard. Our unions, we have had 31 union meetings, and that resulting in 12 agreements. So both of our unions have been working with us along the way. And our teachers union, what they did last Friday to reach a tentative agreement was extraordinary and demonstrates the commitment that we do have as a school system to do everything we can to serve our children and do it safely, do it efficiently, and also think about what our employees need as well. So what we'd like to do is that our Director of Curriculum, Claudia Del Toro Anguiano, is going to highlight some of the areas of the agreement. Our attorney, Mr. Chris Kiner, is also joining us this evening for areas pertaining to the agreement. There may be some questions along the way. You may want to discuss some things, and then we can move to public comment, perhaps prior to action consideration.
That sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karen. So as Karen already said, I would like the board to know that district management has a great relationship with union leadership. We have mutual respect and we have common interests. So with that, you have a copy of the MOU, and I would like to highlight a few items for you tonight. Item 2.1 references the transition from distance learning to a blended learning model. Plans to transition to the in-person blended model begins the week of March 15th. Pre-K 6 certificated staff will have 5 partial planning days to welcome back the students. These days are March 11th, the 12th, March 15th, the 16th, and the 17th. During these planning days, site administration will also hold a safety, protocol, and procedure staff meeting. This will allow teachers an opportunity to clarify and ask any questions they may have about the new plan. Transition also includes an orientation day for students. March 18th has been identified as the orientation day for the AM or the morning cohort. During the welcome back orientation, students will have the opportunity to learn about the new procedures, new school rules, and we're excited because they will get a chance to see what friends make up their cohort for the first time. The PM or the afternoon cohort will report to school on March 19th for their orientation. Monday, March 22nd marks the first day of our blended instruction, with Tuesday, March 23rd as the first day for in-person instruction for all pre-K 6 students who want to join us on campus. At this time, we don't have a set reopening date for middle school, but when the metrics allow for McCaffrey to open, teachers will have 3 days prior to the week of reopening for planning. And again, they will also have a 2-hour meeting with administration to have a chance to ask any questions to ensure that we're all on the same page, ready to go with safety procedures and new protocols. Also know that Mr. Raymer and Mrs. Humdes have been working on parent communication that will provide additional information on new schedules, dismissal times, and other things like that, knowing again that we're waiting for the metrics to change for McCaffrey to be able to open. So welcoming children under a new in-person model will require additional planning time beyond the planning days that have been provided to teachers. So for this reason, a $750 stipend will be provided to recognize the additional efforts taken by teachers to ensure that the children have a phenomenal welcome back experience. You can also reference that item on is item 2.4 of the MOU. That same item talks about classroom supplies. Know that we have asked admin to order any materials, student resources that are needed for the welcome back, and site administration know to do that. Emergency site, I'm sorry, not emergency site. The COVID-19 emergency funding will be used for that purpose. We also recognize that the state metrics continue to change, and we recognize the need to potentially face school closures in the future. So for this reason, item 2.5 of the MOU states that our district may transition from one learning model to another as necessary. At the time of this MOU, we want you to know that we weren't sure of the exact date for the second vaccine. Now we know that the second vaccine is scheduled to take place on Friday, March 26th. So item 2.6 of this MOU states that in-person instruction will not take place on that day. The children will be assigned asynchronous work for the day. Also know that this agreement that you're looking at, when read together with the MOU that you also have a copy of, dated November 16th, 2020, they represent a complete agreement between our district and the teachers union. So with that, do you have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, then if not, any, well, for board discussion, any comments? I'd like to at least give each and every one of you an opportunity to speak to this.
I mean, I want to thank all the, I mean, I think we're probably all in agreement with thanking you all and the teachers union and just all the hard work to get our kids back on campus. I think obviously this has been a challenging time for everybody. I know our teachers are working really hard, harder than they've ever worked before. And I know, you know, the same for the district. So thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go and even more on off of that. Yeah, the administration, Karen, and good leadership. You got everybody working as a team. What's the saying? Teamwork makes the dream work. So, like I said, it was exciting to wake up and to see that we were had this MOU had passed. So, but I'd also like to thank like the school nurses, the school secretaries. I know some secretaries, it's a stress. It's been super stressful on not just the teachers, but our support personnel as well. So I'd like to commend them as well for all the hard work that they've done.
And I'd like to also thank leadership. Karen, you've led this team, you've got us this far, and you have an amazing district team behind you, and then the administrators down to our teachers, and they are working extremely hard. I know, you know, the public hasn't been in classrooms, but I have. I've gone and I've looked at, you know, exactly what our teachers are doing behind the scenes on Zoom. And I've gone into the office and seen what our support staff and our secretaries are doing, you know, with the Chromebooks and, you know, tech issues and, you know, even just little things, you know, getting our kids back on campus with ACEs and our cohorts, you know, and now we have that. So it's been like a step, and now we're here, you know. And I also want to thank our parents for being patient and, you know, going along on this ride with us, because it has not been easy. I know I'm a parent and it has not been easy, but we're here and we're getting somewhere. And, you know, I can't express my gratitude enough for this entire community, from superintendent to our parents and to our students, for sticking by as well. And I cannot wait to see their faces back on campus.
Thank you. And I just want to repeat how wonderful staff has been and how appreciative we are of the teachers that are willing to go back, and they showed their support, the parents, and I'm just so excited for the students. I know at home we just can't wait for this to finally move forward in a new direction, and I feel very comfortable with the safety protocol, and I think it's going to be, it's a work in progress, but I think it's going to be successful in getting our kids back on campus in a safe way. And we're just so glad to have the staff support to do that.
Yeah, and that was more progress. Our safety plan
Yeah.
was approved. And I wondered, Mr. Chris Kiner is our school district attorney. who has been a part, so much a part of our negotiation sessions with our teachers union. And I wondered if Mr. Kiner is available online, if there are any comments you would like to make.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Chris. Now we can.
Chris, we could hear you and then you became muted.
How about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't touch anything, I swear. Just wanted to thank everyone on the team for a fantastic job, all teams, all staff, all teachers, administrators. I'll just say that the districts that have an MOU are in a much better place than those who don't. Just think of it as a roadmap back. And without a roadmap, you're basically going to flounder
And okay,
far more than we are. So congratulations. Your phone.
you're gonna have him call your phone. Okay,
Is that okay?
yeah.
And they just put
And
it
then he'll
next to
be able-
this
he'll-
speakerphone so the
yeah.
public can
We
hear.
maybe could, you would just put his phone right there.
Yes.
Or your phone.
Howdy.
Chris, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. This might be, we're going off technology.
Thank you. We're freezing and we're having, we're just having communication. I just want to congratulate everyone for having this job. Congratulate the board, administration, certificated staff, and get off the phone so you don't have to get reverb. Thank you all.
I think it's always important that's always our focus, is to do what is best for our students. And we're moving in that direction. And tonight, I think, is a very important first step. That being said, do we have public comment?
We do. We have about 14 individuals who would like to speak.
Then let's begin.
Right, and may I ask
Wait,
something,
sorry.
would you like each to go 3 minutes or 2 minutes or keep it at 3?
Well, let's start with 3 and see how that works. You know, again, it's, you know, my intent is to, you know, is to remain fair to everyone. You know, again, that was my intent last meeting when I asked about cutting down the emails, is I just want to make sure that everybody has the same fair opportunity to speak. So at this point, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. If we decide that we need to adjust that in the future, we will. But I think for now, let's go with 3 and see how that works. And then you're going to time them.
I will time them and I will provide the 30-second warning.
Excellent. Then
Thank
let's
you.
begin.
Okay. Obama.
I'm sorry. Our first speaker is Heather Wetzel.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Heather.
Okay, good. I am Heather Wetzel. I'm a parent in our district as well as the high school district. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Marengo, and I'm the current GEFA president. I just want to thank you for your acknowledgements tonight. It is a complete flip of how we felt last week during the board meeting when we were very clearly not supported. And I do appreciate the acknowledgements for all staff members, classified, certificated, unrepresented, because there is nobody in this district that has not had a complete shift in their job description this year and has had to learn a completely different way, a different role, and hasn't just basically had their hearts torn out through this pandemic. To say it's been an emotional roller coaster for everybody involved is a gross understatement. Teachers have never said that we didn't want to go back. We wanted to wait until it's safe. And we're glad that we are now getting to the point where it is safe enough to return to our children, to be back into our classrooms and to be with our colleagues. It has been torture to see the faces on Zoom, to deal with technical difficulties every day, just like we just experienced. Just like today when the server was down for most of the morning and teachers had to completely flip their lesson plans to something that didn't require that server. We were obligated to follow state and county guidelines and mandates, and we did that. Getting that first vaccine was a huge win, and I cannot thank Dr. Schauer enough for making that happen. We know that that was huge. We know that that was hard to do, and we know that Galt gets overlooked often by our county. The guidelines have changed over and over weekly for everybody, businesses, restaurants, schools, churches. We've been yo-yoed back and forth. It has been an emotional roller coaster from the governor constantly moving those goalposts, switching up the game on us every other time we turn around.
Heather, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. We have not been trained to do this job, but I congratulate everyone who stuck with it this year, worked way beyond their contract hours, gave their everything. You are appreciated. Not all community members feel the same. Remember that we are here for the children too, and we have been here this whole time. When we get to open back safely, it's going to be like Christmas for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Next, we have Kim Lizama.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Kim.
Kim Lizama, fourth grade teacher. I and the rest of the teachers and even our bargaining team were shocked and blindsided at the board meeting last week to hear the vile anti-teacher comments from a small group of loosely organized parents who want to place the blame for a global pandemic that has killed 500,000 Americans on the backs of teachers. The overwhelmed parents who spoke so disparagingly and disrespectfully about teachers at the last board meeting should be ashamed of themselves, as should the board and district admin who did not speak up to set the record straight. If you're not, we are definitely ashamed for you. Know that your child's current and future teachers heard you and now know that you do not support them and in fact actively disparaged them in a public forum. A year ago, Galt teachers pivoted from in-class instruction to virtual instruction in a matter of days. Surrounding districts took weeks to begin any kind of virtual instruction. Our union representatives immediately started meeting with district admin to hammer out a plan for reopening virtually during a deadly pandemic. We didn't hesitate to make it happen, and it did. We were unprepared and vastly untrained for all that we have had to invent on the fly. It has required the most that's ever been asked of us to somehow figure out how to teach our students from home, and we did it within days, much of it successfully. To educate the ignorant and uninformed, the union you spoke so venomously about is us. It's the classroom teachers in this district having a voice in our profession and how to best educate kids. It's not some group from Washington or wherever you imagine the union comes from. It's us. The bargaining team members who have voluntarily met with district admin nonstop for a year are current teachers from your child's classroom. They are not career politicians. They are us. When you trash the union, you are trashing Galt's teachers who have worked tirelessly to continue to educate your children through this deadly pandemic. Our bargaining team members worked in good faith with district admin and all agreed to going back to in-class instruction as soon as conditions were safe. That included returning while in the red zone. The red zone is not the safe zone, it's still red, but we agreed to go back anyway. The discussion at the last board meeting was the first time that the idea of returning any earlier had even been proposed. And rather than asking the teachers to renegotiate the plan that had already been approved by both sides, we were blindsided by the vitriol spewed by the malcontent speakers at the meeting, and further thrown under the bus by the board and district admin who did nothing to clarify all of the many lies and misconceptions that were voiced. Even after that disgraceful and disrespectful showing, when contacted after the fact, the teachers bargaining team voluntarily met with district admin to again revisit the reopening plan. That's the union you tried to denigrate. Those are the teachers you defamed. If you really supported teachers, you would be speaking to the board about how to make sure that we were coming back safely. I return that you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we have Sunshine Umeda.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Sunshine.
Thank you. So hello, board members and cabinet. My name is Sunshine Umeda, and I've been a teacher with the district for 21 years. Over the past year, I have heard many generalizations about teachers who are distance learning, so I felt it was important to share my personal experience. Teaching in Zoom is not easy. I have to have my materials and tabs ready to switch screens easily, let students who lost connection back into Zoom check cameras to make sure students are engaged while looking at Lightspeed to check that all computers are on correct assignments and participating all while getting messages from students in the chat box who want to tell me what's on their mind, all without skipping a beat. There was no training in the credential program for this, nor anything that I could have learned ahead of time. Students are different and teaching is adaptive. So finding strategies and activities that work takes time. But that's not the end of my struggles because teaching also includes families. Keeping in communication with families when each one differs in what they need. I get emails from parents frustrated with technology and programs, that their kids have too many missing assignments, that they aren't getting enough information, or that I'm giving too much information. Some are working and contacting me in the evening, so I make an effort to respond right away. Some are home and expect me to respond to them while I'm teaching. I never know what kind of reaction I will get, but I do know that whatever comes my way, I have to handle it with grace and understanding. So I swallow their grief and I swallow their frustrations and anxiety. I don't take it personally when a parent says that I don't understand what they are doing, that they are doing the best that they can and that I'm overwhelming them. And although I have many great and supportive families, it's hard to take the brunt end of some of these tough messages. There are days where it feels that there is nothing in my control, which brings to light just how much of a partnership education is. Teachers are not solely responsible for education. We all have to work together, teachers, parents, staff, administrators, and board members. Yet teachers have been blamed and focused on when it comes to opening campuses for students. Before pointing fingers at others, each group needs to decide what they will each sacrifice to make reopening safe. How will the board look out for everyone's needs? Who's going to remind parents that families get-togethers and indoor play dates puts the whole cohort at risk if they choose to come to school? Who is going to make sure teachers have clear procedures for reopening that are also communicated to the community? Who's going to make sure that families are teaching their children how to wear a mask for 2.5 hours and washing their hands safely? It starts and stops with the board. Trust has been broken with the blame game, misinformation, and hiding information. Thank you. In the many years that I have been with the district, the district has never had to take action that affects teachers. I'm sorry. In the many years I have been with the district, never has an action that affects teachers been announced at a board meeting without discussing it with the union bargaining team first. We don't have control of the pandemic, but there is still much we can control to combat its adverse effects. It's about more than just making a decision. It's about the actions that we take towards those decisions. We can control and work together for the benefit of all involved. We can look out for each other with understanding and compassion. So what action will you choose? Thank you.
Thank you, Sunshine. Our next speaker is Gayleen Gomez.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Gayleen.
Thank you. As a teacher in this district, I was incredibly saddened by what I heard from a number of parents and community members at last week's board meeting. I was also incredibly saddened by the lack of response from this board and this management team. The lack of standing up and acknowledging your school staff, certificated and classified, and how hard they've worked to pivot and provide Galt's children with access to an education during these unprecedented times. Unprecedented, meaning never done or known before. Here are some truths about the people who work with Galt students. We love our students. We parent our students. We pray and cry for our students and their families. We work tirelessly to provide learning opportunities for our students. We often neglect our own families for our students. We work long, free hours for our students. We use our own money to provide for our students. We think about our students even decades after they've left our care. This is true for every single one of us. We are empathetic and understand this has been hard on parents. It has been hard on children. It has also been hard on us. We have spent more time working this past year, probably more so than any other year in our career. We all feel like first-year teachers. To hear get back to work is a huge slap in the face. We are working and working harder than ever to reach and engage children. There was a social media post recently liked by one of your parent speakers last week that read, "Why do teachers need to be vaccinated? How about follow the CDC guidelines and get back to work? Nobody else gets the luxury of staying home and still getting their full pay, with all due respect." To be clear, there was no respect intended. While working so hard, to hear someone attempting to deny us vaccines is disheartening. I've tried to give this person the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is someone who's never had to manage large groups of students or children. Maybe she doesn't understand that in regular times, it's a daily challenge to get kids to stay in their own space, to keep their hands to themselves, and so forth. Maybe she just doesn't know. In regards to those mentioned CDC guidelines, I live in this community. These are the same guidelines I've repeatedly seen disregarded by community members who live here. It's disregard for these guidelines that have kept Galt's children out of our schools for a year.
Gayleen, you have 30 seconds.
Not school staff, not unions. In 2 weeks, we all go out on spring break. We've seen surges after such events. I encourage everyone who wants kids to remain in school and to come back full-time to acknowledge their role. We want kids in school, and we want them in school full-time. And the community members here in Galt ultimately are the ones who either make that happen with their actions or don't. How other people choose to behave is not in our control. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gayleen.
Our next speaker is Sarah Murray.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Awesome, thank you so much. Good evening. I'm Sarah Murray, fifth grade teacher at Valley Oaks. I'm pretty sure I've stated this before, but I just wanted to say that I've had a small cohort of 10 students since January time. Seeing them 2 hours a day for 4 days a week has boosted my spirits in many ways. Some students, or most of them actually, would tell you the same thing. Some students come for academic needs, but some come for social emotional, which is honestly needed more than anything else at this time. I've been waiting and praying for the day I can see all of my students in person, as I know it will benefit them in some way or another. Coming up on the 1-year anniversary of teaching virtually, I can say without a doubt that this is the hardest year for me in my 13 years of teaching. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
You're okay, Sarah.
Even though non-teachers may feel that I'm working less or that I'm not important, my friends, family, and coworkers know how rough this has been and how extremely hard I work, especially this school year. I pray often that I never have to experience this again. My heart goes out to all teachers, board members, admin, even our superintendent. If I feel this defeated right at this time, I know that they do as well. And my heart goes out to you all. Do parents have every right to be upset and frustrated? Absolutely, they do. This has gone on for a long time. And in some cases, it hasn't had to go on for this long. I understand their side and how and why they are upset as well. I'm very excited to open safely, and I'm very excited to see smiling faces all over campus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Our next speaker is Amy Mangili.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Okay, good evening. My name is Amy Mangelli and I teach 4th grade at Valley Oaks. I have a unique situation in that I taught 3rd grade last year and looped with most of my students this year. We left our classrooms nearly a year ago for what we thought was going to be 7 days. Never could we have imagined all of this. I felt the need to speak tonight as we face a culmination of sorts of our days on Zoom. I want to take a minute to remind us of the fact that none of us asked for this, and I feel we collectively as a district have handled it well. When experiencing those big traumatic moments we all have in life, usually it is the loss of a loved one, I tend to find myself in reflection looking for the good or what I learned. As I reflect on the past year, there are plenty of bad, don't get me wrong. But if I take a moment to reflect on the good, I think of my students. They have literally grown up and entered their years of celebrating being double digits right before my eyes. They've gone from reading storybooks to reading chapter books online. They've gone from writing complete sentences to typing 5-paragraph essays. They have shown me that they will never give up, never stop. They're going to be the most flexible, understanding humans as they develop into adults. This time has taught them perseverance, and I'll bet it'll be a long time before one of them wakes up in the morning and says they don't want to go to school. I think of me as a teacher. I have learned to constantly troubleshoot and pivot in the same way my colleagues have. I can successfully run a Zoom meeting complete with additional apps and add-ons to my computer applications. My production operation has me utilizing 3 screens on the daily. Prior to COVID, I didn't even know what Zoom was, and I certainly didn't have a use for more than 1 computer screen. I have developed relationships with students that otherwise wouldn't have been developed because there is no chat feature in person. I have picked up a plethora of skills and knowledge that will absolutely be incorporated when we return to in-person instruction. I have learned and grown more in the last year than I have in my 22 years of teaching. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Schauer and anyone else who was involved in bringing the vaccine to Galt. A feat like that doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. I am impressed by how genuinely you care. I was saddened to learn about what was said about teachers at the board meeting last week.
Amy, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. I must say, I'm glad I didn't hear it with my own ears because I don't think I could have taken it after all the time and energy I have invested in making this work for kids. If you are a parent, I would encourage you to reflect on this last year with your child. Ask them what they've learned that they wouldn't have had distance learning not been a thing. Think about the good that has come from all of this and let's revel in it. We just wrote history. I'm proud of my story. Are you proud of yours?
Thank you, Amy.
Next, we have Tracy Wad.
Good evening. Thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, you're good. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. The comments from the parents at the board meeting last week were mean. They were mean and they were hurtful. At first, I was so angry, and then I was just hurt. Hurt on so many levels by what was said that night and what wasn't said. I understand that everyone has experienced enormous levels of stress, hardship, frustration, pain, loss, and disappointment this past year. And the only way to get through this, the only way that we will be able to give the students of Galt what they need and deserve is by being encouraging, compassionate, and supportive of teachers and of one another. To the parents who spoke last week, I would just ask that in the future, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. Or think about it this way. Treat others as you would like those people to treat your children. To the educators and support staff across the district, I am honored to call you my peers. Your selfless and unwavering commitment to your students and to their well-being during such a difficult time is truly admirable. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Our next speaker is Elaine Troll.
Hello, good evening. I'm Elaine Troll, raised in Galt, now a parent in the community and a 5th grade teacher. This is my 14th year of teaching. I have worked from my classroom all year, and I've also had a small cohort of 10 students since January. My students have shown up every day ready to learn. They remember to bring their masks and their health check forms every day. It has never been a problem. My students told me that they will do everything they can to be back in my classroom, and they have done an amazing job. Next week, like it's been said many times, marks our 1 year since I have been back in the classroom with a full class of students. What we have accomplished as a community and district in those 12 months have been amazing. When we shut down a year ago, we were told it would only be for 14 days. Those days became weeks, months, and now here we are 1 year later. Remember, we were the only district or in our surrounding area to prepare for distance learning. We had one-to-one Chromebooks. We had the hotspots. We were ready to go. We did not have to scramble to order or wait for Chromebooks for our students. Those who worked hard to make that and get that grant for us, thank you so much. It only took a few days, as some teachers have said before, for us to rally as teachers to prepare for distance learning before we knew how important, because we knew how important it was for our students. We were not trained for this, but we did it. Teachers have spent countless hours in training and learning to ensure education would continue. We will continue to learn about this new way of teaching. And every day I've learned, I know others have too. As teachers, we've had many late and long virtual meetings to move forward with educations. As mandates changed often, we felt like we were walking on quicksand. Once we implemented one mandate, it would be changed and we would have to pivot. Kind of a word tonight that we're all using. It's been said many times, teachers have been building the plane as they are flying. It has been messy, scary, chaotic, but not impossible. Virtual teaching in a pandemic has never been done before, and I think we've grown as teachers and our teachers have become resilient. I'm looking forward to March 18th with students in my classroom. I've already seen a change in the 10 students who volunteered to come to my classroom. They're happier, motivated, and they feel like they have more control of their learning. Distance learning is exhausting mentally and physically for both teachers and students, and I look forward to actually grading piles of papers again. I never thought I would say that.
Elaine, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm grateful for the parents who've been supportive of teachers in our community and have defended us and shown grace. I am personally grateful for the 32 families that I've had the privilege to get to know this year from my classroom. I appreciate them and the sacrifices they have made to support their child at home. I know this has not been easy. I'm looking forward to the day that we come back, and that the day that when teachers are not the enemies, and that this community can support us and have really understand everything that it's take to get us to the point where we can open again.
Thank you, Elaine.
Next is Emily Sanders.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you, Emily.
Okay, great. Thank you guys. Well, after hearing some of the comments from teachers tonight, I just wanted to say thank you to my son's first grade teacher. She's been amazing. And honestly, my heart will be forever grateful for everything that she's done for my son and for her class as a whole. I know it hasn't been easy, but I, as a healthcare worker, and my husband is in law enforcement, have been frustrated for a long time now that we feel it's just been unnecessary, and where the kids belong is in the classroom. And it breaks my heart that it's taken this long, but I'm very overjoyed to see that we're finally at this point where we can move forward and that we can get our kiddos back in the class where they belong, and teachers can be back in the classroom where they belong as well. And I know as a community, our parents will not keep pushing to get us back in full time and keep moving forward. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody that's worked hard to get to this point, but let's keep working and let's keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Next, we have Tiffany Lawrence.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Tiffany.
Okay. Good evening, members of our community. My name is Tiffany Lawrence, and I am a special education teacher at Valley Oaks Elementary. I have spoken up at several board meetings during this pandemic, which is completely out of my comfort zone, but I am willing to do that to speak up for what I believe is right for our children of our community. I encourage others to get out of their comfort zones too. I have been teaching a small cohort in person on campus since October. How lucky are my students, right? That has made this dreadful year fly by. When I told my students we have a little over 3 months left of the school year, they couldn't believe it. Do you know why? Because they are enjoying the learning they have been doing this year, because we get to have that in-person social emotional connection that isn't always there when you're talking to each other through a piece of technology. In case some of you are unaware, as a special education teacher, I am teaching multiple grade levels, students with multiple learning disabilities, and multiple levels of curriculum, all while I'm doing this for hybrid for over 5 months. It can work. It has worked. Yes, I'm exhausted daily, but I know as a teacher, I need to be flexible and do what is best for the children of this community, especially my students who need me present daily. I'm a teacher who believes having positive relationships with my students is one of the most important things. Yes, all students need to get their curriculum, and I always do. But for me, the connection and relationships I make with my students is much more important to me, especially in a year like we have had. That is why I fought so hard for schools to reopen and will continue to teach in person. Those amazing relationships I have built have led many of my previous students over the years to reach out to me through this school year, even more than ever before. And I have enjoyed every single one of those conversations and seeing how they have been doing through this trying year of their education. My own children see how I care so deeply about each and every one of my students and how much happier I have been since being with my students in person. I want my own children to get that same experience because this year has been very tough on them as well, just like the rest of the children in our community who have been learning through a computer. These children need to be back in the classroom. We have been facing this pandemic for a year now, and when are we going to say enough is enough and do what is right by the children? They are the future, and they need us now more than ever to put all differences and viewpoints aside and do what's truly best for them, and that is getting them in the classroom. I want to thank the members of the school board, Dr. Schauer, parents, members of our community, teachers, administrators, and even our amazing support staff who have all taken on multiple new job duties and have done an amazing job through this entire pandemic. Now let's get these children back in their seats and out from behind a computer screen all day. Galt is a great small town community. It's time to mend the fences between the community and the teachers and come back together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tiffany. Barbara Woods is our next speaker.
Hello,
Hi, Barbara. Thank you.
my name is Barbara Woods. I serve as a third grade teacher at Valley Oaks Elementary. I enjoy being a teacher, even in difficult times, and I adore my students. First, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our superintendent, Karen Schauer, and all of the staff and community members who work together to organize and bring the vaccine to Galt in such an organized fashion. I'd like to give a huge shout out to the many parent and family members who made huge sacrifices and worked so hard to provide learning spaces for our students so that they could participate in distance learning. Parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and friends have often made sacrifices in order to support these students. Parents have sacrificed jobs, sometimes with one parent working extra hours or more than one job so the other parent can stay home. It's been a source of great power in our community as people work together to make learning happen for our young ones. Thank you. Your expression of appreciation towards teachers and their efforts have often touched my soul and have generated new energy in this grand work of educating our young people. I'd like to thank my teacher colleagues who worked so hard and made sacrifices in their lives so they could provide quality distance learning experiences. We have worked tirelessly to reach out to students to take advantage of the strengths of distance learning and to work around the challenges. Thank you, colleagues, for your creativity, dedication, and unfailing efforts in providing quality experiences for our children. I'd like to thank all of the staff of each site and the district for all of their efforts to make this grand endeavor we've engaged in for the last year the best we can make it. Your efforts are noticed and valued. In particular, I value the instructional assistants who have made it possible for me to reach individual student needs beyond what I could do myself. And I'd especially like to thank the students. I'm amazed by all of your efforts to stay motivated as you sit at a screen and keep yourself engaged in learning. Students, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've had to figure this out together to make learning engaging and enjoyable. You have learned great patience in working through technical difficulties. You have been ever so kind to each other as our faces show in our Zoom frames. You have learned ever so much more than academics and how to treat each other. Your efforts and diligence have been wonderful, and I truly look forward to each day with you, online and in the future in person. I ask community members and employees to support our efforts to move to in-person teaching by practicing safe COVID behaviors now, during spring break, and throughout the rest of the year. This means making sacrifices during spring break by not visiting family members, not having extended family members visit our homes, and by not traveling to public areas that could be vectors for infection transmission. Please make this short-term sacrifice so that we can continue to meet in person and not have infections that could have devastating results in our community. I have personally sacrificed seeing my children and grandchildren and friends during this entire school year so that I could stay healthy for my students. I've chosen not to travel. Many of us have done the same and have family members who are at great risk of survival if they should be infected. Let's all work together. Let's all work together to make this a safe journey for all of us so that we can continue in person without disruption. Let's heal our community and help our students to see what we can accomplish all together for their benefit so they can have a great way of feeling about their futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Our next speaker is Christy Ward.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Christy, thank you.
All right, thank you. First, I want to acknowledge the board and Dr. Schauer for working hard to make this happen. I know this. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the teachers who have been working so damn hard. Most of us know this and know this. I sure as hell notice with my children's wonderful teachers. You are appreciated. I'm sorry any teacher does not feel this. I feel there is a lack of communication. Since September, I've written the board with numerous questions, and now I have started sending ideas. None get responses. I have also heard similar from several other parents. Also for tonight's special meeting, no email notice was sent to the public or circulating phone call was provided. As well, this special meeting was scheduled on a Thursday, the same day as the high school board meeting. I am not saying it was intentionally done, but it does need to be recognized that in having them in the same evening inhibits people from viewing and participating in both. I'm requesting first, any future special meetings not be on the same day as the high school board meeting. Second, I'd like to suggest the school board and superintendent set up a town hall style meeting as a way for the public and the board to meet together respectfully to get our questions answered and to present our ideas to help. With this, I also want to see our school board members meeting in person with the public being able to attend. Last week, I briefly touched on suicide. I'd like to share some things that I have sent in my emails to the board since September. My children's level of mental wellness is low. I noticed an immediate change starting at the end of March of last year. It dissipated once summer started and our lives were back to a normal style. Once distant learning began in September, their mental health quickly went back down. They both have anxiety and show real signs of depression. My kindergartner breaks down daily. He can't handle the stress and pressure of so many Zooms and online activities. Both my children tell me they hate school. Have you ever known a kindergartner to hate school? My oldest, who is in second grade, immediately started to develop tics. He also began to say things such as, I am stupid, I am dumb. And then he told me with a bright red face and tears rolling down his cheeks, I just want to die. He just turned 8 years old last week. I sadly count my blessings that my children are not in middle school or high school, as I know the potential for self-harm that they might be more likely to lean towards, such as suicide or drugs, is very real and very much overlooked. Our children are mentally unwell and no one is acting strongly on their behalf. Not only this, but academically, the children are being hindered. Those fortunate enough to move out of state or afford private school are getting in-person instruction weekly.
Christine, you have 30 seconds.
For the CDC has, and I quote, has been little evidence that schools have contributed to meaningfully to increase community transmission. And per the CDC, numerous studies in other states and from the European CDC report that found schools are not associated with accelerating community transmission. I want to know the board's plan for getting our children back to full-time in-person instruction, not via Zoom and certainly not Zoom in a room. There are numerous public schools in California who have opened full-time. Let's keep moving. I want to know the board's vision and timeline, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Next, we have Martha Vilma.
Good evening, board. I first want to thank Gayleen, Kim, Sunshine, Tracy, Barbara for their passion. I second everything that they said. I could not have said it better. I teared up as they were speaking. Everything they said is just spot on. I want to touch a little on that and maybe add a few things that they didn't touch on. I have requested from the city before, and I believe that in the email I sent to the board and city government, I did want to know what our city per capita is looking at right now, because I know that overall throughout this pandemic, Galt's numbers have been higher than the Sac County averages. Unfortunately here, we do have a lot of non-believers, anti-maskers, people who still think this is just like the flu, and people who focus only on the high percentage of people who survive, the high survival rate. I am one of those who survived, as you just witnessed right now. I have major brain fog, cannot get through a sentence without having to stop and think very deeply about the next word I'm going to say. My heart races with any activity. Literally cooking dinner will elevate my heart rate, I'll get short of breath, and the list just goes on and on. Just today, it shot up to 124 after just going to the bathroom and sitting back down to Zoom. That is what surviving COVID looks like. And kids do get it, contrary to popular belief. These kids are left also with post-COVID symptoms. And then we've already discussed the MIS-C numbers that are elevated right now. I am very glad that we got our first shot. I am very disappointed that we are having to go back before getting our second one. We could very well just be throwing that first one out the window by being exposed before getting that second one and being fully vaccinated. I pray that that does not happen. We have already had some cases in these small successful cohorts that have been going on. So now that we're adding more numbers in there, I don't see how we're not going to have cases. I asked that there be a viable actual distance learning option. Opening more openings for the GLE program is not really giving parents an option. We need to have a option of distance learning or going back, not you get on a waiting list for a possible lottery opening. That is going to be very crucial for many parents that do not want their kids to go back right now. Lastly, I don't know how much time I have, but I do want parents to understand that this involves less instruction time, less access to the teachers, and more independent homework time that will have to be done at home with parents.
Thank you, Martha. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Annie Ibsen.
It's actually my daughter, Ella Ibsen, who's an 8th grader that wanted to talk tonight.
Thank you, Annie.
Recently, I had an assignment to respond to a letter to the editor. I chose to write about our amazing teachers. I've heard some parents and students say some negative things about the teachers, and I feel that the community needs to hear another point of view. Teachers are an important part of our community, especially during the years of 2020 and 2021. While in quarantine, it is difficult to learn and even more difficult to teach. Teachers spend most of the day teaching and the rest of the day planning and worrying about the kids. My mother and uncle are both teachers, and I rarely see them even when they are at home. The teachers I know, and many, many more, are very invested in the intellectual growth of their students. My siblings also attend online school, and I've personally witnessed that their teachers are very involved in helping them. They provide tools and instructions for the pupils in their classroom. For example, a teacher at Galt High, Brooke Beckett, provided extra assistance to her students, my cousins, when they found an assignment confusing. This is only one example of many different teachers providing extra assistance when their students are confused. Teaching can be most effective if the listener is attentive. Students who focus in class and get better grades. If online school provides ineffective for you, it is not necessarily a show of the teacher's efforts. Stressful and energy consuming, mentoring children during distance learning is a difficult challenge. Our wonderful teachers are pouring their souls into students' successful educations. Teachers are amazing and deserve recognition and congratulations for all the work they do in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. You're an outstanding public speaker.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brooklyn Lawrence.
Yes, Brooklyn, we can hear you. Brooklyn, can we ask you to, are you on speakerphone?
No. Can I have her go on my computer instead and do it?
I wonder if you can step away a little bit from your computer or your phone. We might be able to hear you better.
Cleo, can I just raise my hand on my computer? Raise my computer.
Can she go on her mom's computer?
Sure.
Yeah, we can come back to you, Brooklyn.
I think her mom's probably on too.
Yeah, maybe come back after it goes the next speaker and come back. We have about 7 people. right now.
Okay, so next,
We'll come back to Brooklyn.
okay,
Okay.
next will be Shauna Gibbons. Are you there, Shauna?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, board members. My name is Shauna Gibbons. I'm a mother of 3. My sons attend Moringa Ranch. My 5th grader has been doing distance learning since it began in March of last year. He was doing well until 2 months ago when he hit his breaking point. He is now depressed and unmotivated, sleeps more, and has no goals when it comes to education. He doesn't say he has any favorite subjects anymore, which is not like him. He also says that he wishes his church could teach him instead of the school because he gets to see other friends and family members. He was offered small cohorts 3 weeks ago with Mrs. Wetzel and has already shown a lot of progress. I have high hopes that he will finish this school year strong and pass in all subjects. On the other hand, my 1st grader, who only had in-person school for 6 months of kindergarten, was failing in distance learning and is now failing has failed the whole time in homeschooling, which I have tried to do myself. He has been showing since kindergarten signs of dyslexia, which I mentioned to his teacher during virtual learning, but I was told that he cannot be tested until 2nd grade. I am not trained in how to help him with this issue. He is acting out behaviorally, unmotivated, and not making progress academically. He needs to be back in person with a teacher that is skilled and trained, educated to help him. At this time, I do not think that he is on par in successfully finishing 1st grade. I believe he will need full-time and possibly summer school to catch up. I'm happy to hear that money will be provided for possible mental health rehabilitation and summer school. I'm excited to hear a possible start date for AM/PM classes. I also look forward to the same energy continuing forward in the goal of full-time tutoring and possible summer school for those with additional needs. Thank you all for your time and hard work. It is not going unnoticed. Based on CDC and California Public Health, the time for in-person learning is safe, and you all have put the future generations as a priority. All of our children will be thankful for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shauna.
Okay, we have Brooklyn back.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Brooklyn. I'm glad you're back.
Hi, my name is Brooklyn Lawrence. I'm in 2nd grade at Valley Oaks. I know that school has been hard for everyone this year and that we all want to go back to school. I see my mom teaching her students at school and how happy they are with her on campus. I want the same thing. I don't care if I have to wear a mask. I just want to be with my teacher and friends at school. We have been doing this for a year and we are ready to go back to school. Thank you, Ms. Bonanno, for being an awesome teacher. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Brooklyn. You were outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Heather Nelson.
Okay, good evening. I'm actually logged in for my son, Derek. He would like to address the board.
Good evening. Good evening, school board members, district leaders, and teachers. My name is Derek Nelson, and I am a 7th grader at McCaffrey Middle School. I want to start by thanking my teachers for all the hard work they have put into this school year so far. Even though I have never met some of them in person, I appreciate everything they have done throughout distance learning. I thought it might be helpful to hear from a student's perspective regarding distance learning, and this is why I am speaking up tonight. Distance learning has been a challenging experience for me and many other students. I very I very much miss the social interaction with teachers, friends, and school staff members. It feels strange that I've been a middle schooler since August, but have never attended a class in person. I want to return to in-person learning now. It is getting harder and harder for me to give my best effort from home because I just don't want to sit and learn in front of a computer any longer. I have always enjoyed school and learning until this year. Even though my teachers are trying to help me learn, I am losing interest and finding it harder to concentrate. I know I am not learning as much through distance learning as I would be learning in person. I know that if I was in a classroom with other students and my teachers, I would have an easier time learning and staying focused. I would also be a lot happier. I miss my friends, playing basketball at school, and all the other fun middle school activities. I don't want to stare at my computer screen any longer. I am happy to hear that we are moving closer to in-person learning, but I really want to hear that we will be going to school every day. School board members, district leaders, and teachers, please consider what is best for kids. Returning to school is what's best for me and many other students. Students who want to continue with distance learning have that option. Please make it fair for kids like me who want to return to school right away. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Derek. Your message was very clear and we're happy that you were able to join us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Fred Sheldon.
Good evening. My daughter would like to share something with the board members in our district.
Thank you, Fred.
Hello, I have recently written a letter to the editor of the Galt Herald about how teachers are working hard. Teachers are working very hard and are not getting the credit they deserve for their efforts. The news loves to emphasize all the bad teachers, but not the good ones. Most teachers are trying their best to teach their students so that our country's next generation will be intelligent, informed citizens. Many are working long hours without pay or recognition. Online classes are a two-way street. If your child is not turning on their video and participating in class, they will not get the same learning as kids that do. Some parents are learning to appreciate the hard work teachers do with their children because they are now having to do it at home. My dad and aunt are both teachers in Galt. I also help my special needs brother in high school. His teachers have to modify tons of assignments so he can do them too, which just adds more to the many things teachers have to do. Teachers don't like online classes either, but they realize that it is the only way to teach safely right now. They don't appreciate people that accuse them of not working hard when they spend hours planning and teaching, sometimes missing sleep and time with their own families. I am impressed by the diligence of all the teachers I've witnessed. So think before you send a teacher an angry or rude email. Maybe send them a thank you note instead. Thank you for letting me read.
Sheldon, I don't have your first name, but thank you so much for joining and speaking tonight.
This is my daughter, Emily Ann Sheldon.
Thank you, Emily.
Excellent.
Our next speaker is Sean Dury.
Hi there. My name's Sean Dury. I'm a father, daughter that's an 8th grader at middle school. Super proud of the kids that have spoke up today and shared their perspective. I want to try to give you a different perspective as well. I've been a police officer for 22 years, and I say that because I think it'll help you understand that I've been on the receiving end of criticism and public scrutiny. And I share that with you because I think it's important for the teachers to understand that although the parents' comments may have hurt your feelings, that there's a lot of truth in what they say, maybe not mean comments or hateful comments. And I didn't hear the specific ones that were made last meeting, but I think it is important to understand that that is public perception. And it's important for teachers to understand that you are public servants. You have to know that public support and public trust is waning for teachers as they collectively, and it's not just in the community of Gulf, but throughout the nation, stand in the way through their unions of our kids coming back to school. And I think that's where the frustration comes from parents. You know, I recall the board meeting I heard before the holidays where teacher after teacher after teacher came online and spoke from a bulleted points that were obviously disseminated on why we should not go back to school yet and why we should delay it. Well, here we are months later delaying it. And I just want to be a reminder and hopefully get the teachers a perspective that please don't forget that you and me were public servants. You were hired and elected to govern, the school board was, and the teachers to teach the standards of our community. Without community support, you don't have a role. I remind you, just be humble that this community selected you, provide you a livelihood, while many in our community have lost jobs and businesses, have quit work so they could be at home with their young children while they do distance learning. Be grateful the community trusts you to educate our kids, and be mindful of our community's expectations. Be aware of the unified tactics that you might use through your unions and the negative impact it's having on the public trust and the public relationship you have with this community. If you don't want to teach to this community standards, or if it's an unreasonable standard, everybody has the option to go try and find a community that fits their needs. But I leave that as a reminder. I thank you for your time. Appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Our next speaker is Robert Seagraves.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Robert.
All right. Good evening to the board and district cabinet members. And I would like to start off by saying I am a 6th grade teacher, and I've been in this district for 7 years, and I've taught 4th grade. And I am very passionate about what I do. I tell my students that I love them, and I have students that have come back to tell me how much of an impact I've had on them in their lives. And I know that that impact didn't happen immediately. It was over time. So I just want to share with you a little bit my story and then go from there. I also want to point out that I appreciate all of the young individuals that spoke tonight wonderfully and gracefully. That is a product of teachers and families working in collaboration with those kids. And it's also showing of their own personal strength and heart. And that, to me, as we would say, fills my bucket every single day. I appreciate my students showing up every single day. In my 17 years of teaching, I never could have imagined that I would feel like I'm in my first day of teaching. I can recall my first week of teaching. My wife would call me at 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening to ask if I was coming home to eat. And I said, no, I'm still trying to set up my room while planning and figure out what I'm supposed to be doing here because I'm still in the classroom. I can remember her bringing me my meals as I'm still in the classroom. Late at night, I never would imagine that I would be having that same experience, that I'm sitting at a table at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night grading or planning. I never imagined that I would be sitting at a table and messaging parents about assignments that weren't completed because I want my students to be successful and try to get as much out of this as they can. Teachers did not ask for this. Parents did not ask for this. Society did not ask for this. But as I heard someone say, Galt was the district that stepped up back in March, over a year ago. And teachers, I know I did, and other teachers did as well, spent many hours to learn new tricks and new tools with technology. And we did. We had to recreate the wheel. All the things that students received that is on paper and that parents would see, I have to recreate that on the computer. And it takes uploading, converting, downloading, uploading, converting, downloading, and modifying, and then uploading to put on slides so that students can have access to everything that they need.
Robert, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. I appreciate all that everyone has said. I appreciate every teacher in this district and every staff member, classified and certified. I appreciate the time that I have spent with the team negotiating all of these things. I want parents and students to know that teachers do love what they do and they love their students and they have empathy and compassion, and they hold space for all. I hold space for every one of my students, and I try to meet them exactly where they're at and see them for who they are and give them my love and my attention on a daily basis. These teachers in this district have stepped up and put themselves outside of their families. There are many with children in their own homes who are trying to teach and help their own kids. Thank you to those who support teachers. Thank you to those that share their positions and ideas of and what they think about getting back into schools and wanting kids back into school. I hear you and I understand. And I just
Robert,
want everyone to
thank
know,
you. Your time is up.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Harper.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Robert, thank you.
Oh, I'm a parent of a child who was in the district, but who is now attending private school. And I have a child who's going to be in kindergarten next year. And I'm also a teacher in another district with 13 years experience. And I understand the work that all the Galt teachers have put in. And I was very grateful for my son's teacher that he had this year for the first semester, Mrs. Frizzy. I thought she was amazing. I fully understand all the arduous nature of teaching in distance. I myself probably worked 60 hours a week, every week this year. It has been the devil. And I understand all the effort that the teachers have put into this. And I understand that when they hear, frustration, that could hurt their feelings. But I just wanted to urge the board to continue to move towards, in-person instruction and really full-time in-person instruction, to the extent allowed under, by law, really. And if it is that, next year that, it looks like there's gonna be like, health, inspector impediments or whatever to opening full time, I'd ask that the board, really like push back to the extent they can on that sort of thing. I understand all the work that teachers have put in, to this, this whole experience, but to me, in my opinion and from my perspective, the point really isn't about how hard we're working right now as teachers. To me, I feel that distance learning or hybrid instruction even is not as effective as in-person instruction, and it's not as nourishing to the soul of young people. Okay, the reason that I pulled my son out of the Galt Unified School District, which I love, and put him into private school was just because he was missing the interaction with his friends. He was totally isolated and was withdrawing. And since putting him into, full-time, everyday, in-person instruction, he's really blossomed again, and his confidence has been restored and he's come back alive. I really feel that, I understand why we went to distance learning, but I do feel like it is a disservice to our children, for this to continue, or even for hybrid instruction to continue, longer than it absolutely has to do. I really do feel that the harm that this year has caused is real, and the burden that this has placed on families is real. And hybrid instruction, honestly, is going to be a big burden for families to bear as well. And it's going to be time for this whole thing, I feel like, to end, especially by the beginning of next school year, where God willing, we'll have vaccines for all adults who want them. And at that point, I really do feel like there's no other acceptable option. And so I know that's maybe not what you guys are planning to discuss tonight, but I really do encourage the board to continue pursuing full-time in-person instruction to the extent possible, delay that as the goal for next school year, and to restore really in-person instruction to all our students. I'm very happy to hear about the cohorts that are meeting on campus, but that's something that I feel like all our children need. And that, that the longer this continues, the more life experiences are being lost. And that for better or worse, what's happening now and next year is going to shape our children. And so for myself personally, I feel that it is best for my, I feel like any choice is really a trade-off between benefits and risks. And that for my children, I feel like it's best for them to be in school, in person, full time. And that benefits
Robert, your time is up.
From COVID. Thank you very much for your service, and have a good night.
Thank you, you as well.
Our next speaker is Maria Vivanco.
Hi, my name is Maria Vivanco, and what I have to say is I personally love distance learning, and yes, I would want to go back and see my friends, but I see so many people not taking this seriously, but I don't feel it's safe. I'm doing great, and I see many others doing great too. The ones who don't do well seem to be the ones who don't focus and pay attention. I want to be able to continue distance learning, not just be put on a waiting list. Right now, I'm still uncertain if I'll be able to stay home, and that worries me. Please give students like me a better option. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for speaking tonight.
Our next speaker is Abigail Abarca.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Abby, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Abby Abarca, and I'm an instructional assistant at River Oaks in the autism program. I was born here and raised in Galt, and I graduated from Galt High. I'm a student currently at Sacramento State studying psychology and currently a respite worker for 2 different companies. I also have worked in healthcare during the peak of COVID. I also had COVID in July. First off, I would like to thank our board, but most importantly, our teachers who get up every day to fight their fight to help our students and families learn in person or not every single day. For teachers who set their children's distance learning and mental health aside to help someone else's child every single day, to put their child where they might not want to put them, whether it's in school or distance learning, daycare. And then have to listen to the cruel words from parents. With that being said, I would like to thank our parents who have sat next to their child and supported their student through distance learning and took the time to understand curriculum to help better support their students. And educating themselves to help educate their child. To the teachers in our autism program specifically, your hard work and passion and care for our students never goes unseen. To our students who show up every single day and work hard every day towards their future and their education, you'll be ready for college in no time. Keep working hard and never give up. This will all be worth it. With that being said, I understand the frustration working in education. Understand the struggle of distance learning as I'm currently distance learning in college myself. And lastly, I understand those who have experienced COVID, tragedy, loss, and mental health issues. Through all of this, we have to respect our educators and their opinion. They have the power of our child's education in their hands. Every single one of us has gone through something different throughout this pandemic, whether it's filing death files in office of people you actually know, teaching distance learning, or supporting your child as a distance learner, and so much more. We need to support our educators so that they can properly support our students and their parents. With that being said, I believe our district will work hard to accommodate all of our students, our educators, and their families' needs. Be nice. And to the students that spoke today, your courage is inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Our last speaker is Mrs. Garcia.
Hi, thank you, board members and administration. I'd just like to point out that the county is still in purple, widespread tier 1. We also in Galt do not take this virus seriously. I go to a lot of public places, well, I shouldn't say a lot because I stay home, but the few places that I've been to, they're not wearing their masks. They're not keeping social distance. And this is what they're teaching their children that we have to go back into the classroom with. Galt had 25 new positive cases last week for a population of 25,000. The criteria said that our county met fewer than 14 per 100,000 new COVID cases. And that if that hadn't been all met already, we would open anyway. That was at your last board meeting. It's not safe to open up yet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Garcia.
We have 2 more. We have some more people that are adding on now, so.
Okay, well, we'll listen to the next 2 and then I'm shutting off public comment after that. We're not going to add any more after that. I think we've allowed sufficient amount of time for the public to speak, and we still have to move on these on the rest of the agenda items. So I appreciate those that want to talk, but 2 more, and then that's it. Please do not add any more. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, our next speaker is Annette.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Annette, thank you.
Okay, thank you. At the beginning of hybrid model planning, there was no vaccine on the horizon. It was merely a distant possibility. Since then, there are now several types in distribution. There should be a serious reconsideration of the purpose and need for a hybrid model. The city and school districts have valiantly made vaccines available to teachers in the community, and thousands of dollars have been allocated to school for purposes of readying classrooms, and now possibly 150,000 more to pay teachers to return to school. So there's really no good reason this cannot happen. Leading scientists and leaders are saying it's safe and the time is now. And no group is saying it's not safe, save one particular group that may have other collateral or perhaps primary benefits if the schools remain closed. Please provide a hard date of opening 5 days per week. Teachers who are interested in vaccinations will have received them by March 24, so a full reopening should be easily possible by April 15th. The school board teachers and other officials and leaders should begin to vigorously plan for a full return model and continue to advocate and plan tirelessly. This education situation is as close to a societal crisis, both on a micro and a macro level, as we can come, and should be treated accordingly with nonstop planning until the situation resolves itself. Immediate efforts the board, districts, and elected officials are encouraged to take is to petition for redefining of physical space requirements in classroom, plead on the behalf of education for redefining or eliminating the tiers through all levels of government. Note, there doesn't appear to be a tier color restriction for full reopenings. Prepare a plan for full return with concrete dates and vision. Plan to open full 5 days a week as soon as possible, but no later than April 15th. And if you listen to the board meeting on the high school tonight, they have already started that conversation. There's no reason this cannot be accomplished with committed, focused efforts. We have all seen bigger mountains moved in less time with enough determination. It is assumed that a virtual option would also remain for the individuals that would so choose. Parents are no longer supportive of continued and unreasonable delays, especially as they witness the continued degradation of their children's education, their children's overall wellness, and the public education model. Despite all the teachers' best intentions and efforts, and we know there's so many devoted teachers, there's no comparison for in-person instruction and a well-rounded experience. And there's no reason a little or a lot of money should provide this benefit to a selected few. Please do not delay to the point where parents and the public lose complete trust in our precious institution. It has already been lost in the unions, as I'm sure you've seen with your own eyes, and don't need convincing from us. Thank you for your consideration on behalf of our lovely town and youth. How many heartbreaking tragedies need to occur in our community before we realize the time is now? Thank you for your time and have a wonderful evening.
You as well, Annette. Thank you. Our last speaker is,
Well, we don't have a name yet, just the phone. Okay.
Okay.
So. Let's see,
Can they announce themselves?
Hi there, can you state your name, please?
Hi, state your name.
Hi there, can you state your name, please?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, this is Emma's mom.
We can hear the female voice. Would you state your name, please?
Hi, Christy Hannah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Christine.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Christy Hannah, and I'm a parent and a custodian at Valley Oaks. I would like to first thank the teachers and students and custodians who have worked so hard this year to get our kids back on campus. My boys have a very hard time in distance learning, especially my kindergartner who says he hates school. I would like to thank Miss Wattis, Miss Wattis and Miss Madison at Greer for going above and beyond for their students. Our kids need to be in school. They need to be in the classroom. And as a custodian at Valley Oaks, I can assure you, we are cleaning and doing everything to make sure the children are safe. Custodians and teachers and faculty have been on campus preparing and cleaning every day so we can be safe back on campus soon. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Christine. And that takes us to the end of public comment for tonight.
All right, thank you. So then in addition to that, is there any further board comment discussion? Okay, then if not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, one of the questions that I saw coming up, and maybe we can address this for clarification. So if we do move to the blended and you choose to have your child stay home, will there be room for them with their current teacher? Will they be moving over to Glee? When will all that be figured out?
Yeah, and I'll just start and then I'm going to segue to Donna, is that we had put some timelines out there, built waiting lists, and then what's happening right now is that it's kind of going both ways. We have families that are wanting to go back to in-person and those that are going back to distance learning. So Donna, can you talk about what are we trying to do here in terms of meeting everyone's needs?
Well, we've been working on that waiting list. We were able to accommodate everyone who requested distance learning up until the deadline on December 4th. And then we were able to accommodate all those families from December 4th to, I think, the beginning of February, actually. We were able to find space in the Glee 2.0 program. In this last week, we may have 4 or 5 come off of the list. They want to get their kids back into school. And then just, I think it was today, we had 4 more that went back on. So at the waiting list at this time, we do have about 9 parents on the waiting list. You know, we have a meeting tomorrow morning to talk about space in the distance learning program. But I do believe that at this point, we should be able to accommodate those who have already signed up. But we do need to look at what we may need to do if we do have an influx of other students.
The challenge also has been that we've had some staff members now because of vaccinations that have changed what they thought they were going to do. So we are trying very, very hard to meet everyone's needs.
I have a question, because I know I'm sorry, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry, 'cause it's a piggyback, because I do know some teachers have been, and excuse my very late night, 13-hour days of work and all that, have been kind of rolling out the camera. So they've been Zooming, they've had their cohorts in the classroom, and then they've had the camera that follows them around. So with that new technology available, is it more probable that students can keep their teachers if they choose to continue with distance learning?
I can start saying that we do have, of the 210 students that are going to be remaining on distance learning, that's not counting our other program, the Glee program from the beginning. Over half of those students that are going to be enrolled in Glee 2.0. It was voluntary on the part of the teacher, and there was a time frame. And over half of the students will be served with their current teacher. And then we do have the need for 4 Glee 2.0, some new teachers that our other students will be moving to.
It's just not all teachers are doing that at this point. We were trying to look at what the need was and in terms of student, and then teachers that would be willing to step forward. But this is what is making the challenge right now, is there's some changes in conditions now.
Yeah.
So we are just really working hard to make things work as best as we can.
It was real challenging. Those teachers that did, make that decision voluntarily to keep their students that wanted distance learning, they opted for a camera and new technology with our director of curriculum. They're going through training to use that new technology. They're committing to meeting monthly to talk about using the new technology. So it had to be voluntary on the part of the teacher because there was so much additional work for that learning curve.
No, thank you for that update, because I know that they were voluntarily trying it out, and I just,
Yes.
with changing conditions and
our tech department has been working just diligently, and I think they've installed, I believe it's over 85 cameras into classrooms.
I know Mr. Doe, Mr. Mendo, is that anything that you'd like to add?
No, yeah, we installed all the cameras.
About how many was it about 85 or?
Around that, about 70 or 80 or so.
So it's going to be a steep learning curve. So we appreciate those teachers that, you know, did decide to go ahead to provide that distance learning concurrently.
And again, we are meeting as a leadership team tomorrow to look at what, where we are with some of these questions you're bringing up in terms of when we're hearing from parents, or maybe again, some staff members who are rethinking what they wanted to
Yes.
do. And then also looking at, you know, our work with our certificated union too, to try to work within those parameters, or having to re-look at what we can do and work with our union again.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right then. Well, that being said, do I have a motion to approve item 202.175?
I will make a motion to approve item 202.175.
Thank you, Grace. Do I have a second to that motion? Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 202.175, seconded by Casey Raboy. Thomas Silva,
Aye.
Wesley Cagle,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, thank you, GFA, negotiating team and members for coming through on this too, so that we can have this meeting tonight.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 202.176. And this is board consideration of approval of memorandum of understanding and MOU between the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District and the city of Galt for the purpose of developing and operating a COVID-19 testing program funded by the district at the GJUESD Center in Galt, California.
We've made progress here, and I cannot wait to transition this to our Director of Educational Services, Donna Whitlock, is that we received notification from Sacramento County Public Health that our COVID-19 safety plan is approved. So that's another step forward to help us get ready here to move to the blended model. And with that, there are requirements regarding testing that we were already doing to a degree with employees, but again, what was required and recommended changed. And so Donna Whitlock has been working with the city of Galt. So would you brief the board background on this? And
We'll just kind of summarize the MOU between our school district and the city of Galt. Currently, the city of Galt has been, they provide the testing program at the GJUESD Center. The current testing cadence for staff is one time. We need to provide one time every 2 months is the suggested period for staff to do surveillance testing for COVID-19. With the new guidelines that came out on January 14th, the state is requiring school districts to provide the opportunity for surveillance COVID testing once every 2 weeks to all staff and students. Now, there is not a monitoring system for compliance. So we do need to provide it, but we are not monitoring to other, what staff members or what students do go through with the testing. And to that end, we've been meeting with the city of Galt, and through this MOU, what we will be able to do is to expand the current testing site at the GJUESD Center. Currently it's Thursdays from 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock. With what we will be able to do now, using their staffing for the registration, our own staff for the testing, which is now self-testing. So we'll have someone overseeing that. We will expand the hours, 3 additional hours from 1 to 4. So we will have testing 7 to 12, 1 to 4. It is free of charge to all staff and students in our community. We also, in this MOU, if needed, we are able to expand to additional days. So we could expand to, for example, a Monday, if we find that our staff need the additional day. Something that was, that was brought up was, well, of expanding to a school site in an evening. Once we get started with this testing, it will be much easier once we get going to expand if needed. So again, the city of Galt will providing the staffing when the families, the staff and the students come in for registration. Will be provide the staffing that will be overseeing the testing. The cost for the program, we will be billed by it's called Valencia Branch Laboratories. Our district will be billed for only those students who have private insurance. For all of our students on Medi-Cal, the state will pay for their tests. For those who do not, it's $21. It was at $55, but the testing now is at $21 per student. We will provide all the required personal protective equipment. And as I said, in the staffing, let's see, registration services. Again, the district is going to take care of the facilities. We don't have to worry about opening, closing, custodial, any of those type activities. We're just really excited that that it was so smooth and working with our city. They've gone out of their way to help us. The last thing I did want to point out that we made some changes at the very last minute is I did want to point out that all of the testing, the surveillance testing for staff and students, all of it is remaining confidential. The test results will be emailed to the staff and to the students, and we will get a copy, but it is completely confidential. It will go directly to our district. Anything else, Karen, that you can think of?
No, just again, it's just another example of just a thorough but a quick turnaround with our city of Galt, so that we can bring this MOU to you tonight and be ready to have this going when we bring the children back.
What this does too is really quickly is we're really working on instruction and getting our kids back in school, and we're preparing our school for in-person instruction. By starting this and using the Shibuya Center, it allows our administrators, our teachers, and our staff to really fully focus on the sites and the instruction. But again, if we did need to expand in the evening at a site at a later time, it would be much easier.
I want some clarification. I wasn't sure if I understood. When you were talking, so the testing is free for staff and students,
Yes.
and then the district gets charged?
I did need to point that out because
private
when,
insurance?
the anticipated cost, it's all going to be covered through the COVID emergency funding. But what happens is that, when they register online, it's the same as when you may have registered at CVS or some of those other places. If you have insurance, you put down your insurance. If you have Medi-Cal, you put Medi-Cal. For those who have a private insurance, what happens is there's no cost to the student, but we will be billed at a later time for those tests.
Okay, I didn't.
I remember at the very beginning, the tests were over $60 a test. So now that they've come down to $21 a test. It's just, and for staff, the state is paying for all employees to be tested.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
And just for clarification for those at home, this is something that we are required to provide, but it's optional if they go.
Thank you. That was a really good way of putting that. Yes, we are required to provide it, but it is optional for families and staff.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, then do I have a motion to approve item 202.176?
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Tracy.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tracy Skinner to approve
I'm about to
item
shut
number
down.
202.176, seconded by Wesley Cagle. Thomas Silva,
Aye.
Grace Molson,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, are there any recommendations for future pending agenda items?
I just want to point out, and this might fall under the Brown Act updates, is in regards to public comment and how we cannot respond. Like, I think there needs to be a reminder of protocols, maybe publicly. Clarification, what we can and can't do during public comment.
I think that's, yeah, now would be an excellent time for us to have a discussion on that. Or I mean, not now,
And
but.
yeah, and I think that might fall under like the Brown Act updates, just a reminder protocol.
No, I think that's important for all of us to know. So, yeah, I think that's great to really look at that as a future agenda item. Any other?
Yeah, kind of brought up, but us answering emails, what kind of protocol we want to do that? 'Cause I know sometimes I don't answer an email because I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like the fifth person to answer an email. I don't know who's answering what emails. So sometimes I answer emails and sometimes I don't, because I'm like, because sometimes they're personally to me, I answer those. But if it's like all 5 of us and superintendent, whoever, I don't answer those because I don't know who else is answering.
Okay, so we need clarification as to how the Brown Act impacts our ability to respond to community. And I would say just communications in general. I know that we've talked about this in the past, that, we want to develop, more effective ways of communicating with the public. And I still think that that's a valid discussion for the agenda. Obviously, we've had much more pressing issue lately. But obviously, if we had a more effective and efficient system for communicating with the public, I think everybody would be happier too. So I know we've looked into it in the past and we're still trying to reach out to get some sort of instruction on that. Yes, absolutely. I think just communication in general, Brown Act specifically, are certainly items that are relevant discussion that are pertinent to us, especially in these times. So I would definitely say that we should look at that for a future.
And maybe we can package that around the Brown Act. These things are somewhat connected.
Right.
We've done some research on that. I know that West Cagle had brought what the high school district had done. They actually had worked with the firm that Chris Kiner works at. We know, so again, we're behind the scenes looking at what we can set up.
That would be an excellent presentation for us.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else then? If not, again, thank you all very much for coming in here and, spending your time on a Thursday evening for a special board meeting. I appreciate it. I thank everybody from the public that participated tonight. That's part of the process and we appreciate you very much. That being said, this meeting is adjourned.